very essence of Nigeria's collective agony. She stands a sentinel over a nation laid bare, beckoning it to rise from the ashes of its own dissolution, crying out for a redemption that dances just beyond reach. Next emerges Evans Ufeli, a sage, with a heart that beats in harmony with the rhythm of justice, an advocate driven by a fervent dream of egalitarian dawn. Each week, he unfolds a scroll of cases bestowed upon him by the wise rabbi, a craft woven with threads of profound thought and searing urgency. His lamentation for the plight of the people rises like a haunting melody, reverberating through a land where self-inflicted wounds twist the tendrils of allegiance into knots of a servitude, traded for nothing more than a pittance, a morsel of bread amidst the hunger of the soul. Then strides forth Emeka Madunagu, a linguistic maestro, armed with knowledge as dense as the forest, each word a carefully sharpened arrow aimed at the heart of injustice. He ventures onto this hallowed platform armed with solutions, a veritable panacea for the ail of his compatriots. Emeka unyielding locks eyes with the elite, unflinching in his resolve as he speaks truth to power with the fervor of a modern-day prophet. He advocates for a class suicide, a radical act of severance from the vines of greed that choke the very life of Nigeria, prescribing this sacrificial rite as the only balm for the nation's festering wounds. Now, we bear witness to innocent Aduluba, a custodian of integrity, where honesty flows like a river untainted. His edges of sacred truth is fortified by the solid foundation of reason, delivering a symphony of clarity that dances gracefully along the social-cultural spectrum. Innocent, an oracle of the common people, channels their pulse, imbibing the essence of their struggles and transforming them into the language of the streets. His enlightenment becomes a lantern, guiding those lost in the shadow, illuminating pathways once obscured as he breathes life into the collective consciousness. Henry Igwebike stands as a watchdog, a vigilant watcher of the tempest that permeates the fabric of Nigeria, a land once Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode on the Middlemen. Join me to welcome my jurors. We have Juror Evans Ufeli with his case titled Dear Nigerians, Join the Army. We equally have Juror Emeka Madunagu with his case titled Restitution for Kidnapped Victims. While I, Juror Henry Igwebike, will be taking on the recent kidnapping in my case titled When Truth is a Crime and Banditry a Show, Nigeria's Justice Turned Upside Down. All these wonderful cases and more after this short break. Don't go anywhere. Middleman. Thank you for joining us. Now, to my own case. When truth is a crime and banditry a show, Nigeria's justice turned upside down. Is Nigeria truly not the disgrace Donald Trump once labeled it? A rhetoric question. Now, for those quick to dismiss his remarks, recent events offer a troubling lens. In Nassarawa, for example, an evangelist who simply shared a video of a bandit attack during his church program was swiftly arrested by the Nigerian police. Meanwhile, the actual culprits, Fulani bandits, boldly post videos on TikTok, flaunting stolen weapons, giving away gifts like celebrities, and openly mocking the president without fear of consequences. What logic defends a system where law-abiding citizens are punished for speaking out, whilst criminals bask in media attention and immunity? Why are security forces like the DSS, the Nigerian police force, and the military reduced to helplessness, while bystanders, when the real enemies of the state, act with impunity? This is not just a question of leadership, ladies and gentlemen. It is one of morality, justice, and national dignity. When the government turns its might against its citizens while shielding criminals, the nation's soul is at stake. My verdict: a country that silences truth tellers and empowers criminals is not just fallen, it is broken. If Nigeria continues down this path of selective justice, it confirms not only Donald J. Trump's criticism, but the fear of millions who once hoped for better. Jurors.
Yes, I think we have compounded our problem to the point where it's almost becoming irredeemable. Okay, those who are really perpetrating the act of terrorism are not called to penalty. They are not cautioned, they are not arrested, they are not prosecuted even when they are arrested and the rest of that. But the government takes pleasure in hounding down those who are making it known to the world that this government is complicit. And that is the highest level of weakness so far, because it is unfortunate that you find bandits. Okay. You find bandits who are making TikTok videos showing their wealth, or whatsoever you call it in quotes, and the government is unable to do anything about it. For a person to make a TikTok video, it means that his location should be known. His whereabouts can be, tracked. But the government is doing nothing of such. Rather, is busy hounding down on innocent citizens who have been the victims, the direct victims of this terrorism. And so if we have a government that can only respond to the weak, to penalize the weak, even after the weak have been identified as victims, then it means that the government is not serious. It's not making any serious effort to protect the nation, as it were. And so I would say that the government has failed the people. It has failed in its primary assignment to protect lives and properties. And it has also failed in the eyes of the international community to be docile in the midst of attacks and counterattacks within a sovereign nation that is supposed to have a government, that's supposed to have a president, that's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and they're supposed to make direct policies on security and the protection of lives and properties. So once we do not have that, then I don't think we're going anywhere.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, look at yesterday, the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, suspended the education secretary for ordering schools in the FCT to close down tomorrow, Friday. Interestingly, today, bandits went and kidnapped people from a community. I think even some of the pupils, some pupils of a school. So what it means is that this thing is a choreography. People are being choreographed to, those terrorists are being teleguided, possibly by politicians or people in government, who have an agenda to use terror to further an agenda, a dubious agenda. And Nigerians must be very watchful, because the sudden upsurge, look at the government trying to blame the sudden upsurge in terror on the comments by the US president. But take note that a lot of these criminal acts have been happening, and they've been out of the media. A lot of these things that have been happening were not, reported. They weren't unreported. So it looks like an upsurge. No, there's no upsurge. I think there's a complicity across different sectors. And it is very unfortunate. We can, that the government thinks Nigerians can be fooled. Because I remember some months ago, earlier this year, the DSS DG, they tried to make Nigerians, no. Don't call the herdsmen Fulani, because they are not the only ones who engage in animal husbandry and all of that, And, that was a narrative that came up at a point during the administration of the former President Muhammadu Buhari. Oh, don't call them Fulani herdsmen. They're just herdsmen. All this is just agenda, shifting agenda, obfuscation, gaslighting Nigerians. When you see Fulani clearly, they will ask you, are you sure they are Fulani? So why? Because there is this idea that, okay, if we take it easy with these terrorists, maybe they will change. Now, that is why you find out that you see the people whom Tinubu announced as ambassadors yesterday. These are old school, tired old men who should be tending to their grandchildren. So you find out that old approach, is no longer working. It's no longer working. So what I mean is that we need younger people with newer ideas, Of course, you look at it, the chief of army staff is in age and in schooling and everything. He's my contemporary. We're about the same age and, in terms of professional years of experience and all that, we are within the same bracket. But I don't know. I want to believe that his thinking will be much newer than some of his older colleagues. But the interesting thing is that there have been complaints that, people are being frustrated. Contrary voices are being shut down within the security establishment. We've seen people in the military coming out to say that they were dismissed, because some said were detained because they didn't align with some, the wishes of some elements within the military. One officer, one of them actually, a private actually said that he was dismissed because he continued firing at bandits who were advancing on them. And it was sure they were going to be killed. But because his commanding officer said he got orders, superior orders, that they should not fire on the bandits. And the question I want to ask is this. So is it that patriotism has disappeared from the Nigerian military? Because I remember Colonel, Ali, who led, I think, a tank battalion in Maiduguri, somewhere in Borno, and went after Boko Haram terrorists. He died, but he killed a lot of Boko Haram terrorists. I think his father was in the military too. And he's fondly remembered, because he was a very courageous officer. He actually I think it was said that he stood up, raised his head from the armor tank and was firing directly, even as the tank was, releasing shots at the intelligence. It was firing. Eventually, he was killed. So what it means is that, for the sake of power, for the sake of remaining in power, getting a second term, I strongly suspect the Tinubu administration is trying to play soft with terrorists. Now, there is this suspicion too that in 2023, that perhaps, some people within the ruling establishment actually may have struck deals with the terrorists, to maintain fear across the north, so as to ensure the victory of their candidates. Because, somebody, actually raised that recently, but nobody has said anything. So somebody actually said that the terrorists, that they were asked to help the APC to win, in certain areas. So when you look at all of those things, you now wonder at, what is going on. What is going on? But one thing I want to say is that all of this is unacceptable.
All of this, happens. Lots of the international community, those outside of the country will be asking, are we really a serious country? South Africa just hosted the G20 summit. And while I watched that, I asked myself, this would have been Nigeria hosting this and taking the glory. But because we've fallen short, this is why South Africa is going ahead and doing it. The last time we had such a great event was in 1977 during the Festac. And I don't think we would ever have it again with the way I think the country is running. But we will take a quick break, and when we return, Juror Evans Ofeli will be here to present his case titled, Dear Nigerians, Join the Army. Do stay tuned. With the vibrancy of hope, now adrift in the murky waters of uncertainty. With a heart heavy, yet buoyed by fate, he ponders the fate of this great vessel, once sailed by the spirits of unity and promise, now battered by the storms of discord and strife. What port shall it find amidst the turmoil? Where does the compass of its destiny truly point? As waves of cynicism crash against its hull, as the sirens of turmoil sing lullabies of dissolution. In this pantheon of jurors, each voice rings out a chorus, weaving the fabric of a new Nigeria. Sit, relax, and enjoy the show. The Middleman of Jurors. Middleman. Middleman. Middleman.
Welcome back to the Middlemen of Jurors. My case. Dear Nigerians, join the army. Joining the army is public service, a noble avenue through which individuals contribute to the safety, stability, and prosperity of their nation. Choosing to serve in the military is a worthy cause. It reflects a commitment to a craft larger than oneself, protecting others, upholding shared values, and preserving the institution that sustain daily life. Those who place themselves at the forefront of collective security deserve not only our gratitude, but concrete support. State and society should ensure competitive compensation, robust healthcare, reliable retirement system, and a comprehensive insurance that covers service-related injuries and loss. Investment in mental health resources, family counseling, and reintegration programs is essential to help returning service members transition smoothly to civil life. Policymakers should prioritize education and career development pathways that recognizes the transferable skill acquired through service leadership, discipline, technical proficiency, and facilitate certification and employment opportunities afterwards. Childcare, housing, assistance, and scholarship for dependents offers stability to families during period of development or hazards. Transparent oversight and regular review of benefits that to maintain public trust should be adapted as provision in their evolving needs. Communities also play a role. Civic organizations, employers, and neighbors can create supportive network through volunteer programs, mentorship, and local service that fills the gap and honor contributions. Businesses can adopt hiring practices and value pro to service and provide flexible arrangements for caregivers. My verdict, a culture that values public service requires balanced policy, sustained investment, and everyday acts of recognition. By combining practical support with institutional reform, society affirms that those who keep the public safe and functional will not be left to shoulder disproportionate burden alone. Such commitment strengthens social cohesion and ensure that service remains a viable and respected choice for future generations. Support for public servant is an investment in collective resilience, prosperity, and moral responsibility that benefits every member of society across generations and communities. I shall go to Rabbi again.
Yeah, very interesting. Patriotic call, Nigerians to join the military, and also encouraging and also outlining the benefits, inherent in taking up a career, a service career, and also adding other things. But the point is this: Nigerians are asking the question. I remember when I was much younger, when I wanted to join the military, they made it, they made it look like the military was the exclusive preserve of some parts of the country. Check across, social media, you see Nigerians who have made the same, who, had the same experience. They went, tried to join the Nigerian Defense Academy. It was difficult unless you knew one senior military officer or one thing or the other. You couldn't join Nigerian military school. You couldn't join. When you counted 7 people from the north, you count one from the southwest, maybe one from the south-south. Maybe you won't even count anyone from the southeast. These things are there. The evidence is there. That is why in the military today, when you hear, that generals have been redeployed, check the ethnic composition, and you will see the deliberate, misalignment, imbalance, the deliberate imbalance against, the southeast and the south-south. So when you now say that people should come and join the army, the question arises, is it now that the favored sections of the country are no longer able to, are no longer able to serve, or to meet the objectives of joining the military, that they are now looking for sacrificial lambs? 10,000 people were recruited in immigration, civil defense, prisons, some months back. Okay, the federal government has said, okay, no, don't move them to those services. Move them to the army to go and join. They disappeared. The chief of army staff said that some days ago, and then somebody was telling me that, yes, it's true, that all those people, the 10,000 who passed the test and interview and everything, immediately they were told to report to the nearest military formation, for recruitment. They disappeared. They all ran away. So, somebody was asking, who wants to die? Like the son, who won't die? So that's the thing. When you are recruiting into NMPC, FIRS, NCC, and the juicy agencies, PTDF, we don't hear of them. They are hidden. It's the big men who put their children, Central Bank of Nigeria, who put their children into those places. But now it is, it is jobs where, for a service where people will go and, put their lives on the line. They are calling on the ordinary people. You see, there is a problem with that kind of ideology in a society. Our politicians are inherently wicked human beings. Honestly speaking, they don't care. Look at what one was saying the other day, the Senator, Ali Wamako, that removing police escorts from VIPs will expose them to danger. Not even caring that the people live in constant danger every day. The VIPs. So that tells you, that's why I said, okay, I said on a Facebook post this morning that first of all, that Tinubu's children and his supporters should be first. They should be first in line to join the recruitment. That is not just about insulting people online, supporting every ridiculous thing. Let them go and show patriotism, show loyalty to Tinubu by joining. Then after they say it's 24,000. So if Tinubu's people, APC members and other, maybe if they are like 15,000, then we know that remaining 9,000. Okay, those of us who are not his supporters, who are not APC members, we can now consider joining. But honestly speaking, that tells you that's a serious contradiction in the society. I support your call, but we must also balance it. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but even though that is, because our society has been one of inequalities and lack of equity, okay? Even though that is, while we try to address that, why that is important to address, because the rich will not give out their own children or relatives to go and join. Meanwhile, they're asking the general public to go and join. Even the said military, they're asking them to go and join is Boko Haram infested. That's one reason people are even drawing back. Okay. But that notwithstanding, I still think that Nigerians who desire to join, Nigerians should join to protect their country. So the country is not eroded. It's a call to sacrifice. You understand? It's a call to sacrifice. It's a difficult case. I mean, it's a very difficult case to write. When I wrote it, I knew that there's going to be a backlash when this thing goes up on air. I know. But I still chime in. Yeah. But I still went ahead. And I wrote it. And coincidentally, the president made a declaration yesterday. I had even written it and sent to the group before the president's declaration came. So I never knew he was going to declare. So I wanted to pull it back and rewrite it in line with the president's declaration. So let me leave it there, since we are going to be discussing it all the way. The president tweeted yesterday, and it was a call for service, okay? But you see, if our politicians are wise, if our leaders are wise, what they will do is to change the entire dynamics of recruitment. Put in serious insurance policy for them, increase welfare packages for them, make it attractive and make it worthwhile. Okay, if that is done, you don't need to beg people to come and join. Okay, if you have made it plausible, you have made it very well you don't need to. People will naturally gravitate towards a service that is because, like you said, when the NNPC recruitment and all that came up, nobody knew about it. They just fixed their relative and their whatever it is. Okay, but I still think that notwithstanding, we need to join the army to even address that issue. We need the poor, all of them need to come together and join the army to help address those issues of inequality.
Very well said. This actually is, I love the topic. Dear Nigerians, join the army. A call to action, but at the same time, very dicey. This takes my mind to the late 80s, early 90s, when as lads, we saw our friends who were students of Command Day Secondary School in Jos, Air Force Boys Secondary School in Jos. Whenever they are through with their time in school, maybe at the end of their exams, and they're coming back home, often they come back home with their with the uniforms and all, and it was a pleasant experience to see. Whenever they're coming down, down the street, everybody will come out to want to watch them, eulogize them, admire them. Then everyone wanted to join the army at that point. But over time, like what we have seen currently in Nigeria, it's becoming a bit difficult. In the United States, for example, when a veteran retires, there's always a case, a medical condition, PTSD, which they often suffer from. Do you know in Nigeria, we don't even bring that to the table at all? Lots of our military officers go through PTSD, and no one even talks about it. Rather, what we're talking about is, we thank God that he has even, he retired with no injuries, no amputation and all that. But we're not even talking about PTSDs. I have a friend who joined the Nigerian military through the NDA short service, grew to the rank of a major, but he now took the wife to the UK, and equally said he wasn't interested in the military again, and now equally went to meet the wife in the UK. At the time he resigned, the family organized a big party of close to 2,000 people coming to celebrate the fact that he is alive and he retired successfully with less than 3 years in service. So we can see how we have, especially the military, have debased that precious symbolic institution to a laughing stock. That a time would come in this country where we would no longer have people ready to join the army, but would rather have contractors from other parts of the world coming to help us do the work that the military, should be doing. Why should we pay 4 billion to a Tantita when we have a navy that should be taking care of that? So these are some of the issues.
The time will come.
Yes.
The time is now. People are not joining the army. Someone, governor of Lagos State, had to beg Lagosians to join. In the southeast, in fact, people hid. People had to hide themselves, to go and join. In many places, people refused to join. It's a serious situation from what I heard that is so bad. People are refusing to turn up, at the army recruitment. So I don't know how they are going to do it. That's why they're talking of bringing in veterans, retired military officers, and all of that. Because young people are not interested. So you can see that disease that afflicted civil society, where young people refuse to learn skills. The mechanic that has been fixing your car for the past 20 years is still the person fixing your car today. You go to a shop, there's nobody. You don't see young apprentices. And so that is why some people have been saying that the president should get mercenaries first for the task at hand immediately before talking of recruitment. Because look, people may talk, you may conscript people like it happened in the Civil War. They will turn up, collect money, and disappear, run away. So instead of you managing numbers, what you are now doing is that you are looking for the missing parts of the numbers. Who has that time to get military police to start looking for deserters all over the country? It's even be a bigger disaster than what you're trying to have. That's why people are saying that just like Tantita is a private military contractor, aka mercenary now. That is it. Well, we just try to make it look like that. That's why people are asking the question. You spend 4 billion every month to safeguard the pipelines in Niger Delta. Why not spend around that same amount to safeguard the solid mineral deposits in the north?
In the north. Exactly.
You know that this issue of recruiting people is just a waste of time. Get some people. You can get Asari Dokubo. Get some of all those guys here and there, and then even the repentant Boko Haram, bring them together, promise them very good pay, Or even there's a guy called Eric Prince. He has volunteered to come to Nigeria to lead his mercenary group to Nigeria to fight them. Get those guys first. Let them deal with these terrorists first. Push them away, just like what Jonathan did in 2015. He said, "Give me 6 weeks. Postpone the election. Give me 6 weeks." And he brought in those South African mercenaries. They were able to clear all the areas occupied by Boko Haram in the northeast within 6 weeks. So if you do that, you give yourself a timeline of 6 weeks. Instead of the president saying, "No, I will not recruit mercenaries." Look, you don't have the luxury of time because the United States has its own agenda. They have mapped out their plans and everything. And as they are waiting and waiting and waiting, look, they will definitely strike. And the way they will strike, you may not know. That is where the danger is. You may not know. Remember when Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast had an election crisis. France intervened. They didn't wait for the government. They didn't think about sovereignty or anything. What about Nigeria? Didn't we go to Gambia to remove Yaya Jammeh? Didn't we go to Liberia? Didn't we go to Sierra Leone? So we're talking about all of these things, Yes, like Barrister's case, yes, in normal times, you can appeal to people, you can encourage people, but these are unusual times. These are not normal times. So you have to use unusual methods, to deal with the problem of insecurity at hand. Thank you.
Great. So we would leave for A quick break, and when we return, Juror Emeka Madunagu will present his case titled Restitution for Kidnapped Victims. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My people, the elections are around the corner. Before you know it, it will be 2027. But before then, for you to partake in the election, you must have your voter's card. And for you to have your voter's card, you must register. INEC has rolled out the drums. We call this program Continuous Voters Registration. And it is for you to register. This is to do that if you want to vote. And it's important that you take part in the process of voting. Just go there, give them your name and your address. That's all. And of course, they will capture you, take your picture, and that's all. You are done. Within 5 minutes, you are done. And after that, when the time comes, they call it claims and objection time. That's when you look at it. They will paste all the results or the names of those that have registered all over the places. You will go to the place you register, check your name that is well spelled and the information you've given them. Yes, because it's a duty imposed on you by Section 23 of the 1999 Constitution as a good citizen. And you will be better off by voting because you have your mind that, yes, you voted right. I'm Wale Ogunade, constitutional lawyer, human rights activist, and President, Voters Awareness Initiative. Thank you.
You're welcome back. My case. Renowned lawyer, Mr. Femi Falana, says the federal government should refund ransom payments made by families of kidnapped victims. Delivering the keynote address at the Law Week program of the University of Abuja chapter of the Law Students Association on November 13, 2025, Falana described the current security situation in Nigeria as a national crisis, highlighting the persistent attacks on farmers, students, worshippers, and rural communities. Falana argued that while the government responds quickly to the kidnappings of elites, such as judges and former public officers, ordinary citizens are often left to negotiate with criminals themselves, sometimes paying ransoms under duress. He described this as not only a moral, quote, not only a moral failure, but also a constitutional violation, unquote, emphasizing that the government has a binding duty under sections 14(2)(b), excuse me, and 33(1) of the 1999 Constitution to protect all citizens equally. According to Falana, families compelled to pay ransom should be refunded as an acknowledgement of the government's failure to provide security. My verdict: the government has a duty to set up a restitution fund and invite cases from affected Nigerians. No matter the location, a victim or their family should be able to get the compensation or restitution from government. That way, the government will take the fight against crime more seriously.
Why I think this case is reasonable, because the account given by Femi Falana is to the effect that the victim should not be allowed to bear the brunt, the heavy weight of government's failure. Okay, because the Constitution in Section 14(2), says that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So in the event that government is unable to take care of security and welfare of the citizens, and the citizens are thereby victims of kidnapping and all sorts of violence, and when they pay ransom to keep themselves alive, government should, pay back. That's like life insurance in a manner of speaking, because most of the persons, victims who have been caught by kidnappers and insurgents, when they are unable to pay, they are killed in most times. Sometimes after paying, they still kill them. Okay? So why should the citizen bear the brunt of that after paying tax? That's double jeopardy, because I mean the principles of social contract is that the citizens pay tax while the government protect them in exchange for that. So if they are paid tax and the government is unable to take care of them, it therefore means that whatever happens to them that make them to spend extra money other than the tax they have paid should be refunded. It's very logical. But the flip side of it is that it in itself also emboldens criminality, because then the kidnappers will now say, okay, since these people, any money we collect from them as ransom, government is going to give them back. Let's kick the price up. Let's kick it up. Let's collect 1 billion per victim. Because even if they borrow money to pay the ransom, federal government will refund the money. So it becomes a twisted narrative that is dangerously orchestrated. That is why government should not at any point in time condone criminality. You see this one that discussing with them, negotiating with them and the rest of that is painting a very dangerous signal. That's why they are now on TikTok. Because they are now used to the fact that government cannot do anything. The highest government will do is to negotiate with them. These ones that were kidnapped not too long ago and have been released, government came out to say that they were able to take them away from their captives. You understand? Then the insurgents came out to mock the government 2 days ago. That the government paid money, that there was a deal, and the government paid. And because government don't want, this government want to win the next election. They don't want to look like the Jonathan government. Because one of the things that took down the Jonathan government was the kidnap of the Chibok girls. That's that's where America pulled away support. Okay? And then the APC now cashed on it. And that's how they even got here in the first place. So that narrative that they orchestrated, they don't want it to be. That's why they will pay anything to make sure that they look good in the public glare and the international community. And that's why they are acting like the rescue of these girls was as a result of military might and military strategy. It's nothing of that. They paid heavily. And paying heavily to insurgents, so Boko Haram members and the rest of that means empowering them to get more machineries, more equipment to levy, serious attack in the future. And so if we go by that argument that government should pay this money, it has a ripple effect. The monies, the ransom collected, it has a ripple effect. I would rather argue that government should step up its game. Government should eradicate this criminality. Okay? Government should eradicate it. Even if government have to pay victims, government have to pay ransom fund collected from victims and the rest of that. It should not be publicized. It should not be. And then so many persons will also cash on it to also make fake kidnap and all that to collect money from government. So many implications. These things are complicated. You see, the best the government can do is eradicate insecurity and then just give us peace. Okay, just give us peace. That's exactly in compliance with Section 14.2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
Just to collaborate with what Barrister did say, restitution for kidnapped victims. I think this is like swimming in the red ocean. In psychology, there's what called the Cobra effect. And that happened in the 19th century in New Delhi in India, when there was a cobra infestation. And the government of the day at the time, now said, okay, for every cobra you kill, bring it and we'll give you something. With that, they believed in their minds that the infestation will go down. So people went all out. People weren't going to jobs any longer. They started going around trying to find, cobras to kill. It came to a level where the cobra nosedived. Now, when it nosedived, the government was excited and happy. Yeah, this policy is working. But guess what people did? People started farming cobra. They started having cobra farms in their backyards. So what they do is they incubate these cobras and feed them to maturity, kill them, and now bring it to the government. And the government kept paying. At some point, the government realized, I thought we had taking care of this cobra, but it festered again. When the government understood that this was what people were doing, they started paying that ransom or that gifting of money. But guess what happened? When people noticed that money wasn't coming again from the government, they had so many cobra farms. What they did was they now released the cobra, and they had 2 times or 3 times more cobra infestation in New Delhi, in India. So that is what we see even with the radicalization of bandits in the northern part of Nigeria. When we know these people are criminals, rather than exterminate them, we de-radicalize them, gift them money, and so on and so forth. So I do not think what Femi Falana SAN said is pragmatic. It's more theoretical and very superficial. It's a postulate, actually. And I think more thought should have gone to that particular testament that he gave than what I think would happen. And don't be surprised, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu might take that up and see that as a good policy they might start working with, like they usually do, only for them to realize that they've made the mistakes of the government of New Delhi in India in the 19th century. All right,
yeah,
so
because what that creates is that it opens the floodgate for all kinds of fraud. Okay? And then in a country where the people are disempowered, where citizens have no serious, there's no unemployment on a high scale. Okay? People, even when there is a kind of employment, people don't want to take it, like this joining the social army and the rest of that. People don't want to take it. Rather, they would rather go and play Bet Nigeria, drink Paraga, and the rest of that. Constitute social vices all over the place. Because you don't, the instability that the government have created already predated this insecurity. You know, the issue of unemployment have been long-standing from the 80s. And that number has grown astronomically in geometric progression. And by the time the government is unable to address that, insecurity came and met it. So now, the compound effect of what insecurity is that it has not only compounded unemployment, it has also gone as far as compounded the complication that even when there are employment offers, people cannot take them because of the high risk factor. And so you have a society that is confused as we speak because government created this whole thing. You allow insecurity to fester uncontrollably. It became a Frankenstein. When you're supposed to address the issue in 2001 to 2009, you didn't address it. You left it like that up until date. Many of these persons who are Boko Haram members were the ones that were left unemployed in the 80s, early 80s, also because they were unemployable too. Okay, it's unemployment and poverty that caused this insecurity thing. And the government should look at it objectively. We have to, the National Assembly itself have not made one law on insecurity to see how this thing can be stemmed in the tide. So we need to do something about it.
Yes, so do you have any last words, Emeka, just before we call it a wrap? Okay. So that's a wrap on this session of the middlemen of jurors. We have asked the hard questions, had the cases, and now the verdict is yours to carry forward. Follow the conversation on Enterprise TV7 across all platforms. Let your voice be part of the movement for change. Until next time, stay safe and never stop speaking truth to power. From the middlemen, we say bye-bye.
Man.